Doug Liman says the Edge of Tomorrow franchise won't live, die, and three-peat. What does that mean for Edge of Tomorrow 2? I'm Alicia Malone, and this is Screen Junkies News. Director Doug Liman appeared on the podcast Happy, Sad, Confused, where he provided some interesting information about the song that never ends of movies Edge of Tomorrow 2, also known as Live, Die, Repeat, and Repeat. In the interview, Liman revealed that the sequel does pick up right where we left off, but it doesn't keep going forward because we'd screw with time, because the aliens screwed with time. He goes on to say that this will be the final film in the franchise, so I guess you only live, die, and repeat twice. Repeat twice. Here to talk with us about this is DJ Woolridge, Charlie Feldman, and Mark Andraco. Hey, guys.
Hey, Alicia.
Hello.
Hey. Hi. I'm so confused by this. So, Mark, you have a quote from Doug. Is it going to be a sequel, prequel?
Well, this is actually a quote verbatim from him, so I'm not paraphrasing.
Okay.
Quote, I really see this as a two-movie franchise. There's the completion of the story we set up in the first movie and the relationships between Tom Cruise and Emily Blunt. As you remember, at the end of the first movie, she doesn't know who he is, and that's going to launch us into an amazing new direction.
Okay, so what do you extrapolate?
I extrapolate that quote says absolutely nothing
Yeah.
other than Tom and Emily are going to be in the movie, and it's going to be set in the same universe as that movie. And is franchise have to be more than two? Is there like a trilogy?
To be established as a franchise.
Because it's not a franchise, it's a couple of movies.
Franchise would be like at least 4. You get out of the trilogy.
Oh, yeah. And then
2, you just have a sequel.
Yeah.
3 is a trilogy. Then you're in a franchise.
If you own 2 McDonald's, those aren't, well, that's a whole other thing. I'm excited to see a sequel to the movie because I think this is one of the most underrated sci-fi films. I think Tom Cruise with this and Oblivion did 2 films that got really overlooked and are really aged beautifully.
I agree.
And I thought Emily Blunt really held the screen with him. This quote doesn't, like I said, doesn't really say anything other than it's going to be awesome. It's going to be cool. Remember the cool parts? This is going to be even cooler cool parts. So
yes.
I'm glad he's excited. But I hope it's not called Live, Die, Repeat, and Repeat.
I know.
I can't imagine any marketing department in any studio is going to even remotely consider that.
I mean, Edge of Tomorrow as well was kind of a very generic title.
Edge of Tomorrow,
All you need is Kill was already a good title.
Yeah,
How they didn't keep that was a
Edge of Tomorrow sounded like a 50s soap opera.
Yeah.
You know, it was like he clutching his pearls and hanging up the phone.
Douglas Sirk type of Technicolor dream.
Now I want to see now that's a deep cut. I want to see Douglas Sirk's Edge of Tomorrow movie.
I would
look him up if you don't know who he is. He was a great 50s filmmaker. You'll learn something today.
With all the allusions to the Groundhog Day the first time around, now it seems like they're leaning into the romance of it. So is this really going to be Groundhog Day, but with aliens? Are the aliens even coming back?
How great would it be if Bill Murray was the leader of the aliens from Groundhog Day? If he was on a different timeline and just became like Darkseid. He just became evil.
Yeah,
that sounds...
I will give all the money to that movie.
Stephen Tobolowsky, they're all the foot soldiers.
But wasn't the way the first movie ended kind of like a perfect little grace note of like, oh, let's see if they actually are able to make something, and that's it. We just leave because I don't need to see that. I don't care. I don't care if they actually have a relationship.
Have you been to Hollywood lately?
I guess not. I need to visit.
Is, with the prequel, I mean, I thought that the movie started perfectly when you're introduced to Tom Cruise character. You're finding out what happened at the same time as he did. I mean, DJ, would you want to see a prequel to this movie, or would it be more a sequel, or just to leave it as is?
I think the only way I would be interested in seeing more of this, even though I enjoyed the movie, is if you make Bill Murray the main bad guy, or if you go really crazy and have like his time jumps be even more like almost go Tree of Life, where we're going all the way to the future and then all the way back, and like he's got some sort of existential understanding about the universe.
Or like he screwed up the timeline so badly, it's like Quantum Leap without control, where he's leaping. He can't control where and when he is. And
that'd be great.
That could be really interesting. You do something really psychedelic, and you could keep a smaller budget. If the aliens are gone and it's just he has residual, like with Flash with the Speed Force, to be really nerdy. If he's stuck in time and is popping through time in different places,
that would be interesting.
Or if he discovers that he messed up big things in the future by stopping the aliens now.
That's what I was wondering. I suppose in the manga she dies. Spoiler. But she does it in the film, so I wonder if like she was always doomed in sort of a Final Destination sort of way, and that's sort of what's the aftermath in the next one.
You mentioned something that I think would be really heady, and it sounds very Kubrickian if they did it. If the aliens were supposed to. If the aliens were the equivalent of a 50-year forest fire, that they were supposed to have something really bad happen for our next step of evolution, and by stopping the alien invasion, we actually destroyed the human race. That's kind of flipping motives like that is really fascinating, and it hasn't really been done on a really big scale. That could be really cool.
Well, the problem is we're saying going bigger, it sounds like. And there's this quote from Doug Liman that says, I think what people tend to do with sequels is they just make them bigger. And I'm like, no, a sequel should be smaller. You did the first film as a sort of the ad campaign for the sequel. That makes me sad.
That's a horrible thing to say.
So now you don't need as much action. And in the case of Edge of Tomorrow, people obviously love the comedy and they love the situation. So we can do way more focus on Tom's character and Emily Blunt's character. And there's a third character in the sequel that's going to for sure steal the movie. We can focus on that. I don't need an action sequence every 2 minutes. That whole quote is super depressing.
Well, we see a different movie?
And someone needs to take his coffee away. That just feels like the Unabomber manifesto.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I agree that sequels often try to be bigger, and they often think that bigger is better, and so they have to raise the stakes for the next one with bigger action. So I kind of like the idea of it being smaller. But, Mark, as you pointed out earlier, I don't know if anyone watched Live, Die, Repeat and thought it was a great comedy.
Yeah, and that's not in the top 10 adjectives I would use describing. And I like the movie. I think it's a great movie.
What are the top 10? No.
Yeah, Charlie, would you want to see a smaller version for a sequel?
It's funny. I feel like this is sort of in the air because Ryan Reynolds said that of Deadpool 2, that we wanted to make a smaller film with us.
They always say that, but they always want giant trailers and private planes and trainers.
And you can get away with it with a Deadpool. With this, I don't know. I don't know what that looks like. I'm curious to find out. It's the right mindset to focus on the story. But yeah, the comedy was not an afterthought, but it wasn't the crux of what made this
But
so
the comedy was organic. It was situational. It wasn't making you long listen to Beyonce. It rose out of the situation.
It was because you saw Tom Cruise for once struggling with being a hero. I thought
and
that
being
was
Wile E. Coyote or Kenny from South Park.
And it also
just kept dying, and that's hilarious.
Yeah.
It seems like what Liman might be trying to say here is not that it's smaller not making the budget bigger and bigger, because you can have high emotional stakes. The stakes don't need to be technologically huge to be bigger in the next movie. I want this next movie to be bigger emotionally because Tom Cruise's character has learned things that he didn't know the first movie, and now knowing that time travel can happen and you can affect time. That sounds like it would be cool. But if you could actually do that, you would probably never leave your house. You'd be like Christopher Walken in the Dead Zone. You wouldn't want to touch anyone.
Well, and he doesn't lose the power at the end of that movie. He
remembers everything.
Yeah, so he's still able to, if he dies, he goes back. Like, he could live a whole lifetime with Emily Blunt, and be right back at the beginning.
Yeah, I don't need a big special effects sequel, but if he's going to do a sci-fi memento with this, that could be really interesting. I just think his word choices here are kind of just bland. I'm not really sure what he's trying to say.
And speaking of petty, I don't know if they would even go there, but the fact that he's lived so many times in this loop, are these threads that have continued on? Do we have a sort of multiverse situation? Will they deal with that? That there are different Tom Cruise in different realities?
Tom Cruise fighting an army of Tom Cruises from alternate realities.
That was the great theory when Back to the Future came out that Marty didn't change the timeline. He switched places. So there's a really sad version of Back to the Future where Marty, who had the perfect life, is now in the
shitty original Marty's life.
So yeah, there's multiple times. If every time he jumps and he travels, he's creating a new timeline. If he's fracturing the timeline,
exactly,
that can be done small and take stuff that was done in Looper and stuff that was done in Quantum Leap, and those stakes are really high. But we don't need $400 million CG.
I always love a smaller sci-fi. I think that's really interesting because you do get the focus on the characters. And Doug Liman has also said that this series will conclude after only one sequel, that there won't be multiple franchises or multiple movies within a franchise. So, DJ, would you want to see a third film? Are you happy to the idea that it could just be one more and done? Because it seems like audiences these days are having a little bit of franchise fatigue.
I guess if you have a story to tell, go for it. Like, if you have more story, don't make a movie just to make a movie, but like if there's more that you can tell out of that, I mean, make the aliens more interesting, and let's do what Conjuring's doing and do a spin-off of, like, every time you have a new monster that's popular, do a spin-off of that. I don't know. Like, if there's a story there to tell, maybe. I don't need a sequel. I thought the one movie was fine.
I know. I like the idea of standalones, and I think that sometimes people are lazy and thinking, well, I'm going to explain this in the sequel, I'm going to adapt the sequel. Live, Die, Repeat really wrapped it up.
And over-explaining is a rabbit hole to hell, because you run the risk of people saying things like, well, the thread count of his shirt didn't match, that wasn't period correct. And I'm like, if that's what you're worried about in a movie, get some meds and enjoy and immerse in the story some more. And over-explaining, it's like, I never want to know who the Joker really is.
Yeah.
They've done it with Wolverine. They gave him multiple origins, so we don't really know which one of those is real with their implanted memories. But some things don't need to be explained.
Yeah.
Let us as audience members fill in the blanks, because when you engage the audience that way, they will follow you for sequels. Which is what I loved about the Wonder Woman movie, which we'll be talking about later tonight. But it assumes that you are an intelligent audience member, and it makes you fill things in. And when a movie does that, you feel that you're part of that family. And hopefully, if he does this, the sequel, it'll be good. And if the movie's good, I'll see 100 sequels. If they're all great, I just like good movies.
Yeah.
So hopefully, and there's only going to be 2, I don't believe. If this movie's huge and makes $500 million worldwide.
Charlie, what do you think? Do you think if the sequel's popular,
first,
that they'll make a third?
Rabbit Hole to Hell is a great AC/DC album. So I'm glad we referenced that. It has to justify itself. If it isn't a good movie, why are we bothering? If it doesn't make a lot of money, it won't. So it's its own contained loop there. Like you gotta be good in the first place. So we'll just see what he has up his sleeve. He says it's better than the first one. I find that hard to believe.
Yeah, the first one was so good.
The first one's so good.
How could he hasn't even started filming anything yet?
He's his own hype machine.
I'm glad.
The movie he has in his head.
Yeah.
Well, now that
Way
he's
better.
out of Justice League Dark, he's like, good things are happening for me. Pay attention.
Well, if not, you can just reset the timeline, right?
Yeah.
DJ Waldridge, Charlie Feldman, and Mark Andreyko, thank you so much for joining me. And let us know in the comments below, do you want to see a third film? Are you even excited about the second Live, Die, Repeat, and Repeat? What do you think of that title? Let us know. Make sure you're nice to each other. And you can click over here for more internets, more good stuff from SJ News. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and also tweet us at SJ News. We'll see you next time.